The secret language of the forest. When you look at a forest, what do you see? Probably a bunch of individual trees, right? Silent, solitary giants, all competing for their own patch of sunlight. It's a picture of nature we've had for centuries, a quiet, constant battle for survival. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the real drama is happening somewhere you can't even see? What if, right under your feet, there's a hidden superhighway, a kind of biological internet that trees use to talk to each other, move resources around, and even warn of danger? This is the story of the Wood Wide Web. It's an idea that turns the forest from a collection of individuals into a single, vast, interconnected community. So, let's try to decode their secret messages and reveal a hidden world that might just change how you see trees forever. Section 1. The world beneath our feet. For pretty much all of history, we've seen forests from the ground up. We see the trunks, the leaves, and the obvious struggle for light. This view was shaped by Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, which often gets boiled down to survival of the fittest, a world where individuals compete and the strongest win. In that version of the story, one tree's success has to mean another's failure. But in the last few decades, a different story has started to take root. It doesn't cancel out competition, but it does add a surprising new layer: cooperation. And this story starts by looking down into the soil. Underground, the forest floor is woven together by a sprawling, intricate network. It's a living web that some scientists propose connects the roots of individual trees, sometimes over huge distances. This network isn't made of fiber optics. It's alive. It's made of fungi. The thinking is that this underground system acts as a conduit, a biological marketplace where the forest's residents can exchange resources and information. It's a concept that has totally captured the public imagination, suggesting that forests might work less like a group of rivals and more like a collaborative society. The idea is so powerful because it flips our whole perspective on its head. Instead of just individual trees, it asks us to see a single, sprawling superorganism linked by an unseen intelligence. Section 2. The unseen architects. So who are the architects of this hidden world? Mycorrhizal fungi. The word mycorrhiza literally means fungus root, and it describes one of the oldest and most successful partnerships on the planet. These fungi aren't the mushrooms you see popping up from the ground. Those are just the equivalent of their fruit. The real work is happening in a massive microscopic network of threads called mycelium. These threads, or hyphae, are unbelievably fine. They can wiggle their way into tiny pockets of soil that tree roots could never hope to reach. For hundreds of millions of years, way before the dinosaurs, these fungi have been teaming up with plants in a symbiotic relationship. The partnership is a classic win-win. Fungi can't do photosynthesis to make their own food, so they plug into the roots of trees and trade the vital nutrients and water they've mined from the soil for the sugars that trees produce with sunlight. What we used to think was a simple one-to-one trade between a single tree and a fungus is now understood to be way more complex. The mycelium from one fungus can connect to the roots of many different trees, and one tree can be connected to many different fungi. This creates a dense, overlapping, and continuous web. It's this shared fungal network that forms the physical backbone for what has been famously called the Wood Wide Web. Section 3. A symbiotic marketplace. So how does this Internet of Trees actually work? Well, supporters of the theory describe it as a bustling biological marketplace. At the heart of this economy is carbon, those sugars trees make through photosynthesis. Trees can invest a huge portion of this energy, often between 10 to 30%, and sometimes even more, not into growing taller, but by sending it down to their roots to pay their fungal partners. From the fungi's point of view, this is their paycheck. They completely depend on this carbon to live and grow. In return, their massive network of hyphae acts like a giant extension of the tree's own root system, dramatically boosting its ability to absorb water and key nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. The fungi are master miners, breaking down minerals and making them available to the trees. But the proposed exchange doesn't stop there. The theory suggests this network isn't just for direct trades. Resources might be able to move through the network from one tree to another. A tree sitting in a sunny spot, flush with sugars, could potentially send some of that carbon to a smaller, shaded seedling that's struggling to get light. It's even been suggested that during a drought, water could be moved from wetter parts of the forest to drier ones, though evidence for this happening at a large, meaningful scale is still highly debated. In this model, the fungi are like brokers, managing the flow of goods across the whole community and taking a small cut for their services. Section 4. Decoding the messages. Maybe the most fascinating part of this whole story is the idea that the network carries more than just resources. Some scientists think it also carries information. The most famous champion of this idea is Dr. Suzanne Simard, a forest ecologist whose work made the Wood Wide Web a household name. Her research proposed that older, larger, more connected trees act as central hubs. She called them mother trees. According to this hypothesis, these mother trees don't just share resources randomly. They can send more carbon and nutrients to their own kin, their seedlings, to give them a leg up. It suggests that trees might have a way of recognizing their relatives. There's also the idea that the network could act as a kind of alarm system. For example, when one tree gets attacked by an insect, it might release chemical or electrical distress signals into the soil. Neighboring trees connected to the network could potentially pick up on these signals, essentially eavesdropping on the warning, and ramp up their own defensive enzymes to prepare for an attack. It's like a biological early warning system that could let the forest mount a coordinated defense. The language of the forest, in this view, is one of chemicals and electrical pulses, carrying messages of distress, kinship, and support across a silent, hidden world. Section 5. A forest divided, the scientific debate. This image of a cooperative forest, led by nurturing mother trees, is a beautiful and powerful one. It's inspired books, documentaries, and a whole new wave of public fascination with forests. But, and this is a big but, this is where the story gets really complicated. In the scientific community, these ideas are the subject of a lively and sometimes heated debate. Critics argue that the popular story has gotten way ahead of the scientific evidence. A high-profile 2023 review, for instance, pointed out that while we know these fungal networks are real, claims about what they do have often been overblown. For starters, they aren't a single, continuous web that covers the entire forest. They're often fragmented and patchy. More importantly, the evidence for large-scale, helpful resource sharing is still pretty thin. While scientists can trace small amounts of carbon moving between trees, some studies have found the amount is so tiny, it's unlikely to make a real difference to a tree's survival. And sometimes, being near a big tree actually hurts a seedling's growth because of all the competition for light. The mother tree idea, in particular, has faced a lot of pushback. Critics say that while some studies do show resource transfer, there isn't enough strong evidence to prove that older trees are intentionally nurturing their own kin through these networks on a wide scale. the idea of a purely cooperative forest also ignores another truth. These networks can be battlegrounds for intense competition, sabotage, and even theft. Some plants use the network to steal resources, and the fungi themselves aren't selfless. They're organisms acting in their own self-interest, trading with whichever tree gives them the best deal. As one ecologist put it, the forest isn't a superorganism with a common goal, but a complex market where everyone is just trying to survive. This debate is happening right now in labs and forests all over the world, and it just goes to show how much we still have to learn. What do you think? Is the forest a nurturing community or a competitive marketplace? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into nature's mysteries, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration. Conclusion. So, what is the secret language of the forest? The truth is, we're still learning how to translate it. The romantic idea of a totally cooperative forest where trees talk and raise their young might be a bit of an oversimplification. Science is all about questioning, and the story of the Wood Wide Web is a perfect example of how exciting ideas have to be put to the test again and again. But even with all the debate, one thing is certain. The forest is infinitely more complex and interconnected than we ever gave it credit for. Beneath that quiet surface is a dynamic, bustling world of alliances, trades, and rivalries, all brokered by the fungal kingdom. Trees are not alone. They are part of a system, linked in ways we are just barely beginning to understand. Maybe the real secret of the forest isn't about finding one simple answer, but in appreciating the incredible complexity of the questions themselves. It's a reminder that even in the most familiar places, there are hidden worlds just waiting to be discovered. The story is still being written, one root and one fungal thread at a time.